Yo, what is up, y'all? Welcome back to the Father Built podcast. This podcast is all about building up men in holiness, healthiness, and happiness, aiming to give these men the tools to build their house of legacy. I am your host, Bobby Peacock, and it is so good to be back in the chair. Listen, the past 3 weeks have been nonstop with work. I got a big event coming up. And so, like I said, earlier this year, at a maximum, we're going to be at four a month. At minimum, we're going to be at once a month. And so we are barely getting this one out this Friday. So let's get into the episode. Now, in the last episode, we talked about screen time, and there was something that I said in that episode about, like, hey, go back and scroll my YouTube video or videos to walk through or watch these 3 videos. Instead of doing that, and if you watch them, this is whatever. But instead of doing that, I'm going to encompass those 3 videos about like consuming versus creating into one podcast episode. So let's get into it right now. And so, yeah, like I said, to review the last podcast episode, we talked a lot about screen time. And even in that, like, the question for you is, how much screen time do you consume, like, in a day? And like, the other question is like really asking, like, what are you consuming? Because I think that's very, very, very much important. And so, yeah, like, are you mindlessly scrolling, or are you using, your screen time to create and to grow and to build something that is meaningful, that is going to help you, not just mindlessly, oh, here's a reel of someone, peeling bananas or something. I don't even know why I use that, because I absolutely hate bananas. And so this is important because we consume a lot. And when we consume, what happens is that we stop creating. We stop creating. And there's a whole bunch of problems that creates when we stop creating. And the reality is that, like, and I'll be talking about this even more in this podcast later down the road, but like, when we consume and when we overconsume, it affects our joy, our focus, and our creativity. And so, and sometimes it makes us a little bit envious. And he's like, we gotta guard the heart. So, yeah. And the last point, real quickly, is like, when we create, we live. When we put down our phones, we live. And so let's talk about the impact of consumption and our well-being. Like, the reality is like, when it comes to consuming, I like to equate it to fast food, right? So like, when it comes to like creating content, or not even creating content, but consuming content, there's two kinds. There's that, like, what I want to call that fast food content, and then there's that the course content, like the four course content. And so, like, the fast food content, it's like, like, what we consume is going to, like, affect us mentally, right? And sometimes physically, because we're sitting on the couch and just consuming, right? But like, are you consuming fast food content where it's just like watching stupid videos? Trust me, I get caught up in this. Watching stupid videos that are, maybe they're funny, or maybe um, you know, they're bringing joy to you. Which, yeah, there's times for that, but like, is your brain like wanting more and more and more and more and more of that kind of content, or are you consuming that four-course meal where it's like, yo, I am, like, learning something from this content. I'm learning and I'm growing, and I learned something new. I learned how to um manage my relationship with my friends or my relationship with my spouse or my girlfriend better because of this piece of content, and it's bringing value to me. Like, I think about it, there are literally people out there that are making a whole bunch of money just by reaction videos. Like, they're reacting to a person, like, maybe, like, I don't know, like cutting up a watermelon, and that's how they're making money. They're reacting. And so, like, something I've been getting in the mindset of, like, as I'm consuming, I'm like, man, I'm wasting my time consuming when I could be recording myself reacting to this video, because the algorithm will kick in and I'll start making AdSense and all this other stuff. That's just how my mind goes, because it's like I feel like I'm just wasting my time when it comes to consuming content. But there's a lot of valuable content out there. I like to think that, like, okay, hey, this podcast that I'm doing is, I would like to hope to say that it is valuable content that's bringing value to y'all, and that you guys are growing from it and you're learning from it, and there's something new that you're learning from it. And like, I'm playing the social media game where I'm creating that short form content as well to provide to y'all, and other people, across the globe or across the world, so that they can learn and they can grow. And sometimes, yeah, I make fast food content, when I'm hanging out at the office with my friends, and it's not value content, but I'm still creating and I'm not consuming. And so, um, it's one of those things where it's like, man, fast food content, just like how fast food is not good for the body, right? It's full of just nastiness and, like, just unhealthy processed food, right? It's the same thing with fast food content. It's just full of garbage that is not good for your brain. I recently heard this reel where a guy did a 7 week fast from screen time, specifically from his phone. And he was talking about how memory, it affected the memory. And he talked about how, like, when he was on his phone, he was in the low 20 percentile when it came to memory. And because of that 7 week fast that he did, and the experiment that he did, he's in the 99 percentile of men his age, because I think he's like in his 40s or 50s or something like that, when it came to his memory. And so for us, when it comes to that fast food content, it's like we're consuming because we're those dopamine hits and we're loving it, and we're scrolling and we're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. But, like, in the last podcast, if you didn't listen to it, we talked about the side effects of that, like the studies, and how it affects, children, and how it affects us. And so for us, it's more of like, okay, what does it mean to put down the phone and put away the fast food content? And so it's like one of these things where it's like, man, it's the quality versus quantity, right? If you're listening to a quantity of garbage, brother, nah, we want that quality, not the quantity. And so, yeah. So when it comes to consuming content, and like I said, I want to break this down. I believe that there are negative side effects. I think I have 3 negative side effects, and I want to, like, in the videos, I talked about like how I work for an amazing nonprofit. It's a Christian nonprofit, and at the time we had a pastor, Pastor Justin. So shout out to Pastor Justin. And he's from Watertown, South Dakota. He's a pastor out there. He's an amazing pastor, amazing speaker. He wrote not this podcast. He wrote a devotional called "Becoming a Pillar of Hope," and he discusses the concept of consumption and its effects on joy and creativity. And so like for me, like I remember being on this Zoom call in 2023 with him, and he specifically pointed out that um, constant consumption can rob individuals of their joy and hinder their creative potential. And as we consume information, which sometimes it can be great, but what ends up happening is when we consume too much information, we sit there within that information and not know what to do with it. And so so out of this, devotional, I realized like, man, like number one, which is the first point of what consuming too much does is, yes, it robs joy. It literally robs joy, because the reason why it robs joy is um we get caught up in the comparison game. We get caught up in the envy game. We get caught up in all of these things of like we're watching, a video, this fast food content instead of this value content, or this four course content, right? We're literally watching other people's lives, right? Like we're watching people like, oh man, this dude has these many kicks. Like, like I'm a sneakerhead. I got like all these wonderful sneakers behind me, right? But like, I'm watching other people's videos like, oh man, this person just did a $10,000, sneaker mystery box. Man, oh that's cool. Like, look at all the sneakers that he has, or all the sneakers that he bought, or look at the cool car that this person got, or look at the cool jeans, or whatever those, and there's a difference between like, hobbies and stuff like, and like even me, like I love cameras. Like I keep up with camera technology because that's a hobby of mine. But I'm at the point where I got what I need. Like there was a new camera that literally just came out this week or was announced this week. And it's a branded camera that I have. And I'm like, oh, this is a cool camera, but it's not what I need. I have what I need. Like I don't need this camera, but I stay on top of it because hey, maybe there might be a point where there's a a gig that I'm doing that like, okay, hey, I might have the opportunity to use this camera, and because I have the opportunity to use this camera, like I'll know how to use it. And so I think there's like, yes, you can consume, you can consume for hobbies, you can consume for um for research and stuff like that, right? But you have to recognize it's like, okay, how is this bringing value to me? And if this is not bringing value to me and it's bringing up comparison, it's bringing up envy, it's bringing up, oh, I wish that I could do this or that or the other, then it's like, okay, how do, in the alert, in the words of Kendrick Lamar, how do I turn the TV off? Or how do I turn the phone off so that I'm not doing this comparison game and it's not robbing me of joy. Now, the second thing that consuming robs is it robs focus. Like just how I talked about earlier about this dude who did this 7-week trial or um thing that he did, he talked about like his memory got back, right? Because he was able to focus. He was able to get down and not be distracted. Like so like right now we're in this like 2-week fast at work, and there's a couple of my coworkers that are going on this like social media fast. And um they were talking about, one of them specifically today was talking about how um like he didn't find joy in doing the dishes. Um and he was talking about, well, like now like I do the dishes and I'm okay with doing the dishes because I'm not distracted by my phone. And so I can focus on this task that's ahead of me because I'm not so focused on my phone. I don't have something in my ear, or I don't have something that's like going in my brain at a constant rate. And so, like, for me, it's like, yeah, it robs our focus because it's like we're swiping, we're swiping, we're swiping. We have, a 3-second, like, oh man, this video is not me. Bam. Next video. Oh, this video is not me. Bam. Next video. And so we're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. We're trying to find that thing that we want to get to, but we don't know what it is. And so we're just trying to figure out what that entertainment is. And so, like, even like people at work, they're like constantly on their phones, like, and we talked about this in the last podcast about like not letting your phone dictate your time, but you dictate what your phone's time and what your phone does for you. Instead of your phone dictating what it does for you, you dictate what your phone does for you. And it's like, how often can we be in a conversation and our phone goes off and we're immediately distracted? Like, oh, I gotta grab that text. And so something that I've been doing is I've been putting my phone in do not disturb mode more often. And that's part of the reason, like, it's weird. So I used to have like a Whoop, which is like a health thing. Now I have a Fitbit because the Fitbit is like so much cheaper. It's like a one-time thing versus a Whoop. Yeah, it's a yearly subscription or yearly subscription, but the Whoop is so much better. I'm digressing. But I have this, and this thing you can get texts and stuff like that. But I have all that turned off. And that's why I rock like this old school watch, which this watch, I got to give a shout out about this watch. So I have a friend that he made this watch, and his brand is called Dial Zero. And it's an automatic watch. It's a beautiful watch. And he has like 4 different types. And so, and they're like serial numbered and everything. And this is like literally like my second favorite watch. But this is the one that I wear the most. And so if you guys are interested in an automatic watch, hit me up, because this guy not only does he make watches like his own brand, like this Dial Zero, but he also custom makes like automatic watches as well. And so super cool guy. So if you guys are interested in watches, like, let me know. I'll hit him up. But yeah, so the brand is Dial Zero. I don't think he has a website yet or anything. And so I'm digressing. I'm gonna go a little bit more down this rabbit trail. Like, part of this thing, the thing that I love about this podcast is like I can give shout outs to my homies that have brands and that are doing great things. And so any opportunity that it ties into, like this watch it ties into what we're talking about, I'm going to shout them out. So let's get back to it. Not a sponsored ad, because if it was a sponsored ad, that would be horrible. So free shout out to Dial Zero. But anyways, back to the topic though. The reason why I wear an old school watch, I had an Apple Watch. I'll get too distracted with the notifications. Yes, you can turn off all the notifications and all the other stuff, but there's a difference between having a watch like this and a watch that does all this technology, but you're not even going to you're only using part of the technology. So I'd rather spend money on something like this and something cheaper than an Apple Watch, right? To do what I needed to do, to track the heart rate, to track the health stuff, that the steps and all that stuff, but not distract me from conversations, not distract me from things that I'm doing in my life, like this podcast or whatever. I can look at the time and I can recognize, okay, yeah, it's this time. And then I'm not tempted to scroll and look at notifications because it's a automatic watch. Plus it's a conversational piece. And so the reality is that yes, the screen time consuming, it really does rob focus. And the thing that I want y'all to think about with that is, think about the last time you got distracted. How much time did you lose? Because at the end of the day, like, when we get distracted, we're losing time. And time is the only thing that we can never get back. Like, I'm recording this podcast, right? This is 45 minutes that I cannot get back. But this is 45 minutes that it's worth investing in this podcast. And so the third thing is consumption robs creativity. Now, this one is super personal to me because I am a creative through and through. And like for me, I realize like there are YouTubers that I follow for creative purposes, but sometimes I get so caught up in their next video and what they're doing and what they're creating that I stop creating myself. I stop pushing the envelope myself. I stop because I'm so invested in what they're creating that I'm not investing in what I'm creating. And so what it does is like because I'm consuming other people's creation, it takes away from me creating my own creations. And so like it's so big. It's so big for me because like I remember saying this in a couple videos that I've posted. I literally have the lights, the cameras, the mics. But sometimes the hardest thing to do is put into action. And so I like something that I heard this year is by Alex Tremosi or something like that, where it's like you can have all the resources, but you have to ask yourself the question. And I'm using my own language to say this, but what does it mean to be resourceful, right? Like I can go out and buy another camera, which I have been very much tempted. I can go out and buy better mics, which I have been very much tempted. And I can go out and buy the next thing because I'm consuming what other people are doing with these things, right? Like I said, a new Panasonic camera came out, and that's the brand that I use. Yeah, I could get rid of my cameras and then boom, get that camera. But the reality is, if I am not being resourceful for the resources that I have, once I get that new thing, it's not going to help me. It's just going to sit in a box or sit in my room upstairs where I have all my camera gear and just chill. And so, like, for me, it's like when we're consuming, we're being envious of other people's things. We're wishing we had those. Once we get those things, then they just sit there. But then we could be out there creating. We could be out there actually experiencing life. And so for me, that's why it's like I'm trying to consume even less now because I want to create more. And like that's literally what I've been doing. I have been creating, even though I haven't had much time for this podcast, but I've been working my butt off for work to create content for them that is what I think is, better than last year or better than a couple months ago or this or that. And so the other thing is I want to talk about like ways to reduce mindless consumption, right? So this is where we're bringing in the tools, right? And some of these come back from the last podcast, but some of these are new. So I got 6 of them. It's like we talked about this last week or the last podcast. It's like recognize that there's a problem. You got to break the cycle. You got to recognize, oh snap, I have a problem with my digital well-being. Okay. Accountability, screen time passwords. It's going to help you out with that. Ask someone to hold you accountable. Like, what does accountability look like? It may look like giving them, a screen time password. It may look like, you meeting weekly and saying, okay, hey, this is how much time I spent on screen time. How do I get that down? What actions do I need to put in play? Or it may be daily conversations. It's all of those things, right? The second thing, which we talked about, set screen time limits. iPhone has screen time tools. Use them. Learn. Sometimes that can be the best thing because your phone's not dictating you. You are dictating your phone. Dictating is not a good word to mess up on, and I almost messed up on that word. Um, and so track your screen time. Um, also have accountability in that area as well. So a third is a verbal affirmation. Tell yourself to stop. Like I do that all the time. I'm on my phone. Sometimes I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh, stop. And then I put the phone down. Um, and it's like, it's like, what's that? Jingle All the Way. Arnold Schwarzenegger. His neighbor's coming into his house, his creepy neighbor trying to hit on his wife and, do the cookies and all this other stuff. And Arnold walks in and he's like, put the cookie down. Horrible Arnold Schwarzenegger reference there, but he's like, put the cookie down. And it's like literally you have to say, put the phone down. Like you're scrolling, stop, say it out loud. Say it in your mind. I sometimes just say it out loud because like it's like I'm physically saying stop, put the phone down, because like it helps me for some reason. And whether there's people in the room or whatever, it's like, okay, because you got to build that willpower. You know what I'm saying? Like what's his name? Will Smith's son in Never Say Never. I have the power of will. I got willpower, baby. And so that's learn to do that. And if it doesn't work for you, you try it. It doesn't work for you, well, try something different. The next thing is manage your notifications. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Social media, news, stock market, YouTube, any notification, just turn it off. Do not disturb. Turns off all notifications. And it's great. And there's ways for you to like have some notifications come through, like let's say you're married. Your wife wants to get a hold of you, or you're in a relationship. Your partner wants to get a hold of you. You got a kid. Your kid wants to get a hold of you, or like you got 12 homies like me that are my ride or die. They want to get a hold of you. You can let them push through those notifications, and so, but that helps with the dopamine levels because you're going to be reaching for your phone, and you're going to be realizing like, oh snap, I should check social media. I should check this and that, and then once you get past that phase, then you'll be like, oh man, I've been working for like 2 hours. I haven't even checked my phone once. And people are like, oh, you've been off the map. Sorry. I've been grinding. And I didn't get your notification. And it's crazy to think because it's like we live in a day and age. I'm going on a tangent here, but we live on a day and age where like notifications are the most important things in our lives because we believe that everybody's urgency is our emergency, but the reality is that their urgency is not our emergency because we have our own life. And so once you put your phone down and you start living life and you stop letting it control you, and you stop letting the consuming control your joy, and you start creating and you start realizing like, oh snap, there is a difference. And because of that difference, I am able to focus, and because of that focus, I am able to get stuff done. And then you're gonna start realizing like, oh man, the people that matter most to me, like I'll make time for them. Whew. Went off on a tangent. Man, we talk about more than just consuming. Man, we talking about a lot of stuff here, man. We just getting it. Sorry, it's like 10 o'clock at night, and we just going hard in the paint. Let's go. I'm jacked up. Because you believe it or not, I'm caffeine free. But I'm saying all this stuff because it's important, because other people's urgencies are not our emergencies. You got to ask yourself, who am I willing to go to war for? Who am I willing to go to war with? And are they willing to go to war with me? because those are the people that I will answer to. Those are the people that I will let consume my time. Everybody else can wait. Not everybody deserves my time or response on their timeline. Their sense of urgency is not my emergency. Bam. Went off on a tangent. All right. So that was number 4, manage notifications. Number 5 is establish accountability, which we already talked about, is have someone check in. Accountability is so important. Don't be like Batman. Because, I mean, Batman even needed Robin. But I'm saying, like, don't be like Batman. Like, you think you can do this. You can save the city all on your own, because you can't. Because Batman even needed Robin. It's probably a horrible example. I don't know. But what I'm saying is like, you need accountability. Like, if you're struggling, you need accountability. If you're recognizing that this is an addiction in your life, you need accountability. Sometimes the easy things are not the better things, right? Or even the most effective things, right? The hard things, man, that's what I'm talking about. The hard things, man. The hard things. The things that you're like, oh, man, this would be so much better. This would make my life easier in so many ways, but it's just going to be hard. Those are the things that you want to work through. Those are the things that you want to do. Those are the things that you're going to look back and you're like, oh, man, it's like hitting the gym, right? I've been keeping it on the low, but I've been hitting the gym. Like, I've been trying to hit the gym hard, but I've been keeping it on the low because I want my private life to be, I want people to see the results of my private life and not me like throwing it out on public and be like, hey, look at me, I'm hitting the gym. Yeah. Selfie in the gym, 2024, new me. Yay. But instead it's like, nah, man, I want people to see the results, to be like, dude, Bobby, have you been losing weight? And be like, yeah, man, been hitting the gym, been doing my thing. But sitting at home is easy. Going to the gym is hard. But that compound interest, baby, ew, and be like looking all good, looking all schmexy, get bigger arms, maybe some abs, you know. But going back to the phone, it's all like, oh, man, like, did you see this video? Did you see that video? Did you see all these reels I sent you? And I got homies that I send reels back and forth, you know, and that's how we stay connected. And like sometimes like there's homies that I haven't looked at the reels in like 2 weeks because I just been locked in. And so like, it's like, oh man, look at like all this time that I spent on my phone. That's time I can't get back. But what would happen if I put my phone down and I had people hold me accountable, even though it's hard because I'm addicted to my phone? And I started experiencing life. Oh, snap, man, my memory's stronger. Oh, snap, man, like, dude, I just read like 3 books this month. Oh, snap, man, like, I'm going to the gym, listening to music, not worrying about a thing except for the workout. Oh, snap, like, dude, life is better for me. Man, this is crazy. This is crazy. Huh. And I think about like my mom, my foster mom. I remember I was at home visiting, and technically I was helping my dad move some furniture from the basement. And it's crazy because he's still, I mean, I'm 32 years old and he still treats me like a 16-year-old. Gotta love your parents. But my mom was in a room by herself, no music. And I think she was organizing something or doing something artsy or whatever. She was humming. And I'm like, man, she's not on her phone scrolling. She's not like texting nobody. I doubt her phone was even in the room. but she was like humming some music, probably like an old hymn or old song from the 60s or 70s or 80s. I love you, mom. But it was cool. I was like, man, if I can get on that level, like instead of like, I mean, some of y'all are probably doing the dishes, listening to podcasts, and I say thank you. But maybe you should just pause the podcast right now and just like finish what you're doing and just like put the phone down and finish what you're doing. And then pick up the phone and finish the podcast because, this is valuable content. I feel a little bit of oxymoronic going on here. But I say all that because it's like, man, like accountability is important. Like I want to get on that level with where my mom is at, where I can put my phone in the other room and I can just focus on what I need to focus on. And so the last point is really this is, let's say that you're like, man, I don't know if I can get off the phone. Okay, cool. Curate what you consume. You can change your algorithm. So instead of like watching videos and prank videos and this and that, you're watching like, oh snap, like, oh man, that Father Built podcast episode, that short form real content that Bobby put out, man, that was dope. Oh snap, like Jordan Peterson just put a short form piece of content out that was great. Oh man, like this dude just made like 3 quick things on relationships that you should know about. Like, oh snap, that's so at least it's bringing value to me. Like I had a friend, we were driving up to shoot a video, and he's like, yeah, I'm not on social media as much. I'm like, yo, that's dope. And he's like, yeah, like, like I'll do like 10, 15 minutes a week. But when I'm on social media, I've curated my algorithm to feed me stuff on finance, mental health, and spiritual health. I'm like, I should do the same. And so like for me, it's like as I scroll down like my Instagram and stuff, it's like that's the stuff that's mainly feeding me is that stuff, because I curated my algorithm to do that. And so curate your algorithm, curate what you consume, and then from there, take that 1%. I'm gonna get 1% better. I'm gonna get 1 minute better each week. And so this is a little bit shorter of a podcast because it's just me. But at the end of the day, like we are all built to create, to make an impact. Not just mindlessly scroll, not just mindlessly, numbingly do things, but we're called to create. We're called to be so much more, than what our phones have to offer. Like, what's that band? Switchfoot. It's like they have a song about what does I have to offer or something. But like, man, in today's age, we are so much more than what our phone has to offer us. So why waste our time on our phone doing nothing? Like, recognize that, like, man, you have an opportunity to create stuff that's beautiful. And part of creating is creating memories, creating more time, creating content, creating a life that, like, that honors God, that God would be proud of. Instead of living your life on your phone, being dictated by what your phone feeds you. Just some thoughts to think about. And so, yeah. Balance is hard. But if you're shifting one way, like let's get back to switching creating. So what would it take for you to create something? Go out and create. Don't just consume. And if you're consuming, consume that 4-course meal valuable content, not that fast food content, that value content. That's what you want. Not the value menu, but you want the 4-course menu. Because that's good and it's healthy for you. Consume content like this. So, also my doctor, he texted me, if you listen to the podcast, and he got a good crack out of me giving him a shout out. So I thought that was cool. That was dope. That made my day. When y'all text me, I just want to let y'all know that makes my day. It makes me happy. Y'all give me a message, be like, oh man, good. Somebody got something out of this podcast, which is sweet. So I appreciate that. But we got some cool stuff coming down the pipeline. I'm so excited for this year, man. And honestly, something huge coming next year that we in the pipeline. So probably July, I'll make mention of it, but like it is big. Yeah, we planning something big. So I'm super stoked for it. If you want to know more about it, hit me up and I'll tell you. But if you don't, I won't hit you up. So anyways, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in to the Father Built podcast. This is where we build up men in holiness, healthiness, and happiness, aiming to give men the tools to build their house of legacy. I am your host, Bobby Peacock, and you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. And like always, y'all, remember, peace, love, blessings. We are out.